All right, good afternoon, everyone. Can you all hear me? Great. Welcome to the upper floor of the library. My name is Greg Bem. I'm one of the faculty librarians here. I recognize some of you. Thank you all for being here. And I thank Professor Mantooth for collaborating with me today and bringing some students and some visiting writers to the library from outside of LWTech. Before we get started, I also wanted to do a thank you to student programs for providing the coffee, which at least 4 of us are enjoying right now, and maybe some more of us will be enjoying later. Hopefully I don't have to drink all of it and wind up in a bad place. I also wanted to thank the library team downstairs and just LWTech in general for being accommodating. We try to do events up here that kind of take the library into new places and innovate a little bit, and it seems like everybody that works here is pretty cool with that. So without further ado, I just wanted to say a note on the format and then introduce the poet for this afternoon. The format will be after my introduction. The poet, Bill, will be reading some of his poetry and then maybe talking a little bit about it. And then afterwards, there will be the chance for all of you to ask questions or make your own comments as it relates to your course or your work here at LWTech. Or if you have other questions or ideas, you're welcome to share those as well. Any questions on that? Make sense? Sound good? The reading and the Q&A will go for about 40 minutes, give or take a few minutes. And that's pretty much it. So, originally from coastal Maine, Bill Carty lives in Seattle. He has received poetry fellowships from the Fine Arts Work Center in Provincetown, Artist Trust, the Richard Hugo House, the Sorting Room, and Jack Straw. He is the author of Huge Cloudy, which is forthcoming from Octopus Books, and the chapbook Refugium from Alice Blue Books. His poems have recently appeared or will be appearing soon in the Boston Review, Plowshares, and the Iowa Review, Willow Springs, Conduit, and other journals. He is an editor at Poetry Northwest, and personally, I've known Bill for quite a number of years now, at least 5 years, and we're both originally from New England, so we shared that. We also are both sporting beards, which is pretty cool. So everyone, please welcome Bill Carty.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you, Wesley, for inviting me here. This is pretty fun. I just drove down. I teach at Edmonds Community College, and so just kind of came down here. Had what I thought was going to be a turkey sandwich, but I'm pretty sure it was ham. So I'm a little out of sorts. Still trying to figure out what's real and what's my imagination. Anyway, I'll start. Greg mentioned that I have a book coming out next year called Huge Cloudy, and I'll read that one. It's about traffic. I actually remember one of the initial ideas for this poem came out. I was walking across the bridge over I-5 on 45th Street in the E District, and was making that walk pretty frequently and noticed the traffic. And it was a football day. The Huskies were playing, so I kind of started there and went other places. So, Huge Cloudy. Survived summer? Prove it. Show the wound. In Sunland, everything was grand in form and shadow because the candle likes some darkness to star in. The head is the arrhythmic activity of the interstate, a bollock's birthed by flaming Winnebago. It's a game day, so yeah, there's a game. October means huge cloudy days descend from the ridge to pluck me for their envelope. For instance, today, I woke up, I went about my morning rites and was swallowed in fog. I wasn't making demands of myself or sending aristocrats up length posts. I was having things, then having to have them, and so felt that loss leave me. A hot air balloon. Yes, a balloon. That's what I lost. It couldn't have been anything else. So throughout all these poems, there are just lines I steal from wherever I read them. I think that's an important part of writing, and for me anyway. I'm not sure, maybe other people are more original, but I just kind of take things from other places. So that has like lines from, I don't know, like the French national anthem. There's like a line in there about sending aristocrats up to lampposts, tying them to the lampposts and stuff like that. So all these poems, I'll kind of talk a little bit about the sources, but this one is called Ships versus Shops. And I was watching, I can't remember the name of the documentary. I was watching a documentary about fishermen in the Atlantic. And I was kind of, as one does, starting to multitask, had my phone, was looking at stuff on my phone. And then I started thinking about the Apple Store and how it's often glass. And then I started thinking about the Louvre Museum in Paris, which is also kind of has a similar glass. And then I noticed that ships and shops are almost the same word. They just have one letter difference. That was the big, deep thought I had that kind of created this poem. So this is called Ships versus Shops. When the net comes aboard, it is mostly trash, mostly small sharks, fin-flapped, tails struggling vis-a-vis our stratagem. The net is passed overhead, litter-like, stiff rope and radio crackle. The lights askew. Light is a small disturbance on the sea, and the white flash is a gull. I find 15 wings at the high water mark. I find no fish and one owl. Water rushes from the deck, cod slide across the metal, then the machete, then fish heads buoyed in the wake. Now, let's reckon with retail. The museum used to be the main cube. Now the store's the cube. The museum used to be on display, but now we parade our purchases. We show off that we're browsing. Often, browsing is enough. To enter the cube is to reveal your taste. It's exceptional. Taste changes people, and to practice taste is to wish to be changed. We lower a sieve in the dark and discover the ship's net hauls in a new ship. It's just the right size. The crew fits perfectly. The new ship's old crew, the dead crew, there's no sign of them. There are some rays in the hull with their fins sliced off. And where there's blood, there are gulls. Gulls, you are welcome. That's how I take the bell's ring as the screen door swings. Here's a tune, please empty your pockets. The shopkeeper heads home to shower. He is calling it a day. There is a shower on the ship, too. There is much visible ink, many Celtic crosses. Be honest about the bounty. Remember how you encountered a squid? It wasn't a swim, it was for sale. At the deli counter, or in the dark, the captain can hardly see beyond his own reflection. Night is a one-eyed mask taunting Odysseus, swindler. That he was a mariner can't be denied. And I haven't even mentioned the sail thing. I'm on a ship reading about the ship. I'm at the store looking for a new monitor. The sample screen shows a man on a ship watching a show about a ship. I'm in the shop watching the ship-watching captain. Gulls float upside down at the bottom of the screen. I swim through a garden of jellyfish blooms. I drown, not knowing which way is up. Then comes the lowering of the big chain curtain. This is how we call the catch. This is how we prevent the theft. Is there a TV show called Happy-ish or something, a movie? Has anybody heard of that title? Okay. I named this poem Happy-ish, and then someone told me it was the title of something else. So, Blackish? No, that's a show too. No, I think they're. Anyway, maybe this person was lying to you. This poem begins with my wife is gardens a lot, and one day she was like, if you see a cat in the yard, make sure to shoot it. And I was like, that's pretty intense. It's not really her normal disposition, but she was feeling protective of her turf, so it was kind of started with that conversation, and kind of went from there. All these poems are kind of, they start out maybe with a concrete situation, and then they become strange. Happy-ish. My wife positions a solar animal repellent device near the garden. She says, if you see a cat in the yard, shoot it. The high pitch of her scheme steadies in the breeze, though I hear none of it if we leave home in search of a single lemon, or embark on a journey to capture the neighbor's ancient sugar. Either way, we must revise the ship we sail in. Celery makes a terrible boat. The vegetables contain water, and water its share of air. The recipe insists a boat is anything we can breathe through. Old pliers rust among the geraniums. Soon we breathe through them too. It's near constant, our breathing, which is why we hoard these plastic bags, totems to a change in fortune. It's our luck in the meantime, plus dinner, late in the Mediterranean style, that make this poem a love poem. The return is not explicit, and the sea is Greek and roiling with rain. I didn't actually think that beforehand, but that references Odysseus a little bit at the end, going on an adventure, not sure if he's returning home, and the other poem did too. Okay, I'm going to read a couple. I'll read this poem. I haven't read this poem in a while. This poem is called Room, and basically, we have the word stanza as part of a poem. It's the Italian word for room, which is kind of, the poem is a house, and each stanza is kind of a room that builds up to the whole house. So I was thinking of that, and then again a concrete thought, and then it just got a little strange from there. Room. I've heard third hand each stanza is a room. In June, yard means room. In June, yard means the room where I cure my innards, where I stew them in liquor. The crevice over the stream, where the snow melts first, is a room, and so is each tulip. The nurse log, becoming the forest floor, is a room promising future rooms. In bed with another, my hand seeks the knob to the next room. The landlord claims the tattered couch makes the porch a messy room and has to go. That's true. All the fires constellated on the beach are rooms, and the people are walls who stand watching their pores inflame. For a second, I thought my car was a room, but these automobiles arcing the bridge do not make a poem, only traffic. Asthma is an owl in the room of my lungs. A tenderloin, sliced yea thick, is a room with walls of burnt, nippled skin. Each song is a room I leave blushing when my singing's done. All these rooms, all the clouds drifting through their open doors. No wonder I am always outside. I was on a road trip once and a friend bought a bag of chicharrones that had one of the chips had a nipple on it, and I've been scarred ever since. I just can't get that image out of my head. It just haunts me in my sleep. Sorry. It's even worse than eating ham and thinking it's turkey and not knowing what's going on. Okay, this is another poem kind of in transit. The title of this is In Deserto, which is I can't, the true story behind the title is that I was kind of thinking about a friend who I went to college with, and In Deserto, the school's motto was Vox Clamantis in Deserto, which is a voice crying out in the wilderness. And so this idea of in deserto, in the wilderness, I was kind of thinking about, and thinking about the way that the wilderness, kind of the natural world, enters the landscape of the city. I think we're in a pretty unique urban area in that our kind of the way we mediate the natural world and the cityscape. I think they overlap a lot more here than they do perhaps in other cities. So in Deserto. I also live near the zoo, so I'm always a little scared. In Deserto, there's a terrarium draped by a towel on the only free seat on the bus. I ask the man what's inside, and he says, scorpion. It's not something I would normally do, but I lift my eyebrows as if to say, may I? I stick my head under the towel and see how strange I've become. It used to be I stood on a stump, and you stood on a stump. Now, if I want to see the mountains you see, I get sick with altitude in a skyscraper. To see what you see, I ascend the city's throat. There's this painting I saw that was just all these stumps, and two people standing on stumps in this field of stumps. I was thinking of that too. This is called Kiko is Missing. Kiko, I don't know whatever happened to Kiko. Kiko was a cat in my neighborhood. And there were these posters that said Kiko is missing. And then I Googled actually fairly recently Kiko is missing as a phrase to see if I could find that original poster or something and notice about the original cat. And there were like a dozen missing Kikos around the world. And I was sad. So, yeah. Blank is missing. That's like a good kind of sad internet search to do. Just for...
Ask your wife.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Very good point. That's very good. Kiko is missing. But her picture is everywhere, and her owner, my neighbor, paces the den, talking to her carpet's tessellations, but not to Kiko, who is missing. My grandmother spoke to patterns too, refused to look from the museum tile to the sculptures. She said, my niece writes wonderful poems, but she had no niece and didn't have me in mind. She said, I am no longer the person who once tried everything. Then she gave me my grandfather's axe. I replaced the head Then I replace the handle. It is my axe now. Okay. I need a couple more, I think. So this is a poem called Constellations. I think at one part, I was thinking about this recently. When I started out writing poems, I was really concerned with, like writing poems about something. And then I kind of, through the poets I was reading, got into the idea of, well, you can write about something, but then talk about something else, and then come back to what you started talking about. And then I really got excited about the idea of, you start out writing about something, and then you talk about something else, and then you don't go back. So I like that idea of poetry not coming back necessarily, just kind of starts somewhere and it goes somewhere else. So this poem, for instance, is called Constellations, and I had done that thing where I started writing about, this moment that you'll hear, and then wrote about another moment, and then went back to the original moment. But then I cut out the last thing, so it was just kind of staying here, going somewhere else. But now the title doesn't necessarily make any sense because the constellations came in at the very end of the poem. But I also kind of like that as like the title is kind of a ghost of where I thought the poem was going to go, but then it never actually went there. So, Constellations. I'm eating duck with pleasure in a borrowed gray suit at one of those bury me and drink funerals because the airline lost my luggage somewhere over Nebraska and this funeral won't stop losing my friend. How did I feel? In life, confounded by his kindness, and upon waking by the beeping from the lumberyard, drifting over the oaks toward the attic where I sleep, a truck reversing. Its window rolled down an inch, a thin curtain of smoke spilling out. Then, no longer nearing, it remains in the alley to gather the newspapers, to take away the jars. It puts something private in its maw. It is all-consuming like the sun, or an opening vault, maybe a vault in a coffee shop that used to be a bank, used to hold jewels, but tonight hosts an open mic where one singer has salsa on his collar from the torta sin queso he just finished. Dairy does this thing to his throat. Is that why he's so quiet at the party? No, he is tired and trying to remember the origin of the pain in his shoulder. He is concentrating on that pain. One minute, if I can find it. This is from a longer poem called Bounding Sphere, which I hate to say anything that pertains to mathematics, but I think is, this could be wrong, but if I remember correctly, is if you have like an array of different points, the bounding sphere is like the sphere, the smallest sphere that you can make that contains all those disparate points. Does that make sense? So the sphere is this big, this big. So I was kind of thinking, this is a long poem about relationships, kind of the bounding sphere that holds things together, barely. Finish this and then maybe some questions. Bounding sphere. Better luck next year, we say, gathering materials. Better luck next year, we whisper under the tiles and eaves, into the thatch edges and water pipes. Better luck sprouts where the gutter drips. Plum purple, we were lucking into new years. Better luck, we said, to the center of the cloud. Better luck to its edge. What could be better, we said, as the cloud shadow met us on the sea beach. Better luck, you said. Next year, you said, and didn't elaborate. Better, 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 we said. You said, luck, 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 with zero perspective. Lucky clods, we said, having misspoke, looking skyward.
So please consider asking Bill anything that's on your mind, or making some comments.
Yeah, literally anything. It doesn't have to be.
Anyone want to start?
I'll make notes and ask some comments too.
Yeah.
How did you get into the course? I'm Connor, by the way.
Connor, that's a good question. You know, I think when I've answered this question before, and I don't know if it's true, but it's like I invented it now in retrospect. I started writing in high school, I think, just on my own, like keeping a journal. And I think I was drawn. I listened to a lot of music in middle school, and I was drawn to like really word-dense music. I listened to a lot of, on one hand, hip hop, on the other hand, Bob Dylan, which, you know, both involve a lot of language, a lot of words. And so I think yeah. And then I remember actually hearing that Bob Dylan took his name from Dylan Thomas, the Welsh poet. So then I was like, ooh, I'll check out Dylan Thomas. And I thought his poems were kind of cool. I remembered like there was I can't remember, there was like a college basketball player with the first name Dante. And I was like, oh, that's a good name. And then I like saw on my parents' shelf there was a book by the Italian poet Dante. So and it's, you know, about hell and it's kind of ghostly and cool. So I read that. But yeah, it was just, I think, I don't know, drawn towards, I read a lot too. So I think that was a big part of my early, I had almost no poetry taught in school until college, I would say. But like in high school, I probably read a total of 5 poems in 4 years, maybe even high school through like middle school. So yeah, I found it a little outside of school a little bit.
What brought you to like Washington, D.C., obviously other?
Yeah, good question. I was I was from New England, moved around New England. I lived for a time in Colorado, a little bit in New Mexico, and then I went to grad school in North Carolina. And I kind of knew that I was there for 3 years and knew that I didn't want to stay there. And I wanted to live in a city, I think. And I know New York seemed too expensive and big. I kind of just was like doing a list, and I think I was drawn to this area because of, as I mentioned about the poems, the mix of like the offerings that the city has to offer in terms of culture. There's a ton of literary organizations and poets, and there's a lot of schools to teach at. If you go back to Maine, there are very few schools. There aren't as many in this area. There are 20, 30 schools you could teach. Community college or different levels of school. So. I think it was the mix of the literary community, and then I like to get outside of the city too. So that was part of it. I looked at Portland. There were no jobs in Portland. There were jobs to apply to here. I didn't get any of them, but I was like, well, at least I can fill out an application there. Whereas in Portland, no even jobs advertised. So that was about 10 years ago. Yeah.
Some sort of pattern you go through, ritual or something, when you're writing a poem, or just wing it?
A little bit winging it, I think. The poems kind of jump around, as you all know, they kind of jump around a lot. They're not very narrative. They're not like, there might be moments that are kind of clear and have narratives to them, but they kind of move from place to place. So what I normally do is I take notes, all the time. Like in my notebook, I'll write down lines I like or thoughts I have, and then I'll just do that. I'll take notes on my phone or on scraps of paper, and then at some point I'll think, oh, that's either a title of a poem, or that's like, oh, that seems like the beginning of a poem. And then I'll start that, then I'll kind of go back to my notes to see if there's anything that fits with that. So most of the poems I think kind of happen that way through accumulating different things, although some of them, I know some of them are easy and short, but some of them, are kind of longer, and it might take months or years to finalize.
I think when I was looking through various pieces of your writing, I ran across lines that appeared in Happy-ish in some sort of prose essay. Was that an example of where you did something about celery?
Oh, did I use that in the same?
Yeah. You remember that?
No. Wait, so what? They were in a prose?
Some article you.
Oh yeah. I was in a different kind of prose.
I guess it was formatted more.
Yeah, that's right.
It was not the same poem.
Yes, that's a good point. So that was So sometimes I'll cannibalize old poems. So that was like a line I took from that. And so also because I'm like putting together a book, so sometimes the poems, the old versions of the poems don't seem to quite fit. Or I remember those now. Yeah, they're kind of like prose chunks. They're about fake science experiments. And they're kind of goofy. Yeah, they're goofier, but and then I like this. I guess I'm still thinking about the celery. Celery, everybody's had the celery peanut butter, right? Celery boats. Yeah.
About poetry style. There's poetry that rhymes.
Yeah.
And then there's a teacher showed us a couple of different poems and printed them off for us. And one of them looks like paragraphs, and the other one had just snippets of things like in dessert titles.
Yeah.
Like, how do you decide what style to make it?
Well, I try to see what's happening as I'm writing the poem and let that determine, like for the length of the line, for instance. That's usually, I don't know, just like a sense I get. I guess I usually put things into fairly geometric blocks, it seems like, or something. There was a time where I definitely, write a poem and then say, it has 27 lines, so it can either have 3-line stanzas or 9-line stanzas or something that, just kind of divide, or if it was 24, it's like, is it 2 12-line stanzas, or, I'd get in trouble trying to do all the math there. 6 4-line stanzas, that type of thing. But I try not to have it be arbitrary. I don't know. A lot of my poems I haven't quite, you'll see some poems that use space more on the page. Like I'm very afraid to leave the left-hand margin. I don't really get too far from the left-hand margin, and there's something safe about that. But yeah, in general, I think about how the line creates. If you're looking at a poem, the line creates like a visual experience, right? It creates like a visual break that you might not hear when someone is reading necessarily. And I think a lot of poems that unrhymed poetry, which a lot of contemporary poetry is, a lot of the rhythms come from that tension between the line as you see it versus the sentence, the grammatical unit that the poems consist of. So I try to pay attention to that, like where I mostly use, sometimes I don't use punctuation, like in that version of In Deserto didn't have, I think that you all saw it didn't have punctuation, although I think I've added punctuation since that in a more recent version. But does that answer that?
How much
much are you writing this thinking about like deeper meanings? How much would you want people that are reading your poetry to be looking for?
I don't really. I think I have my own personal deeper meanings that I'm thinking about and aware of. Deeper in that they're different from the.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that they're great thoughts about the world. They're not like deep thoughts about. There are no secrets, I don't think. But yeah, so I have kind of my own personal, maybe deeper meanings, or maybe more like associations to lines, because I can oftentimes think about like, I'm looking at this poem, like the first line is about releasing a kite, and I'm like, oh, I remember that I read about tetragonal kites in this artist's book, right? And so I have that association, but I don't think it's necessary for, everyone to have that same association. So I would hope that, the poems have, they go kind of beyond the associations that I have. I try to free them from that and let them kind of do their own thing, even though I may think that it's headed in one direction. I try not to have too much to say in a poem and then see what happens after that, because I think there's a lot of poets have talked about that, and a lot of artists in general, that idea of, if you hold on, if you start to write a poem and you're like, this is what I'm going to say, I have this idea I have to get across, then that might be like an essay or an argument, but it's not necessarily a poem. It doesn't open in the same way that a poem might. So, but I also don't, as people listen, like when I read other poets, I have my own associations, right? Like it's always like, you're always meeting in the middle between like the writer and the reader. So there's going to be overlap there. So yeah, probably some of the meanings I'm putting into the poems, but I would expect that a lot of the meanings people are bringing with them, right? I remember I got a letter from a friend about a poem. He was like, man, I saw what you were doing there. You were like talking about your brother, and I was thinking about my brothers and all this stuff, and I was like, I was not thinking about that at all. But it was true, right? Like there was something that was his true kind of experience of reading that. So that was cool to see.
One more question? Yep.
So what drew you to poetry, and do you do any other form of art?
Why poetry rather than other art or other?
Yeah, like painting or songwriting.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. I think there's something about the openness in poetry. Like I read a ton of novels and nonfiction. I read a lot of other things, but I know poetry seems to be in the way that like sometimes where you look at like, I think of like an affinity between poetry and like abstract painting, where you kind of look at you're looking at something abstract and you're taking something from it, and you don't necessarily have to find a particular meaning in that poem. So I think I like that that kind of questioning. Like poems seem to ask questions in a lot of times without providing answers. So I like that. I taught myself to play the guitar and have tried to write songs, and I'm like, I almost feel like I can't do both, or something, or I feel like very much a novice in that area. But maybe someday I'll stop writing poetry and start writing songs. I don't know, but yeah, I'm drawn towards all types of art as a viewer, but yeah, I don't know. I've tried to write short stories, and they're just kind of cheesy. Yeah.
All right, well, let's all give a round of applause to our guests. Thank you, Derek.